Welcome back to Story Glimpse. This episode, we're going to be reading a short story I recently wrote called Not My Lucky Charms. Let's get started. Hi again, Weston Kincade here, best-selling author. We're going to go ahead and get started with Not My Lucky Charms, a short story I recently wrote. Ted Dansen, Leprechaun, at your service. Ted danced a jig, dipped his head, and his hat toppled into his hand. Beneath his hat, shaved into his hair, were the words, "Get focked." "What? You didn't think I'd let you off that easy, did you?" he asked, his smile vanishing. The rotund woman seated behind the desk looked like a stand-in for Mimi in the Drew Carey show, and as such, seemed a bit dim. It took a moment for shock to set in and her own smile to disappear. "What? You thought I was here to do parlor tricks, you manky Egypt?" Ted strode toward the woman's desk, standing tall at 3'8", his earlier antics as short-lived as the stereotype it resembled. "What? Think I ought to cater to you and beg your pardon and say things like, 'She's after me lucky charms'?" The large woman leaned forward, her antique desk chair groaning with the effort. She didn't say a word, only sat in thought, staring over the desk at Ted, who flipped his hat back onto his head effortlessly. His black leather jacket and matching bowler hat were Ted's favorite outfit. He didn't have to play a role like so many of his kind or fit the stereotype. This job allowed Ted to be Ted. No, not that Ted Dansen. Ted didn't like taking people's shit, and he loved dishing it out to those who couldn't pay their bills. So, working for Shimmy Martin paid the bills. "You know why I'm here?" Ted slowly worked around the desk, giving Miss Loretta a few moments to think it over. Normally, someone in his position would be worried about giving a debtor time, but Shimmy's people were different. Not because there was any physical difference, but because Shimmy's enforcers were unpredictable and numerous. The very fact that an insane clown posse or a dyslexic troll with anger problems might actually show up to take the rent out of someone's hide tended to deter people from retaliating. That didn't stop them from missing payments, though. Unfortunately, that was an unavoidable part of humanity. People never seemed to grasp the fact that, yes, Ted or one of his so-called friends would stop by to offer a little incentive, i.e., whoop some ass. And yes, Shimmy would get his money, and then some. Often quite a bit. "Yes, Ted, I know why you're here," she finally replied sarcastically. "You want a lap dance, but I tell you, I just don't have the energy today. Come on back when—" Ted's patience snapped. Pulling an expandable baton from within his jacket, a flip of his wrist grew it to 45 inches, nearly 4 feet long. It was taller than Ted, extending his reach dramatically. That was what stopped the Mimi wannabe's sarcastic tirade, but not the look of it. That would be far too easy, and really, it wouldn't be near as much fun. The baton slammed into her mouth, breaking her front teeth. "What was that, you manky maggot?" Ted repeated, dark eyes blazing. "Here I thought we were gonna have one hell of a time, then you go acting all langury." Ted leaped onto the woman's lap, standing atop each wide knee. "You had all the chances you was getting, you maggot. Time to pay the piper." Slamming the end of the baton down on the desk, it collapsed into a 9-inch alloy pipe that would make the Terminator think twice. The flexibility of a shortened baton this close up made it Ted's favorite weapon. He grinned with malice and cracked the metal rod across the full woman's thick skull. The light went out in her eyes. "You think I come to this place for the sights?" he screamed. "This joint's a piss-poor replacement for my local drinking hole. And the bingy here? Ye gods! Smells more like a fish market than a strip club." Ted waved a hand in front of his nose as blood poured down the club owner's pudgy face. Her head moved groggily as she tried to find consciousness once more. "First time? Sure, you get a chance." Ted swung the baton again, thudding into the woman's head with a sickening crunch. "Second, time to play golf!" Pulling the weapon free, Ted took out a 4-inch folding knife and slit the woman's throat. However, he didn't stop there. Instead, he sawed through her spine, leaving the barest of skin connected and the head hanging from the torso. Then he jumped to the floor and hit the button to expand the baton yet again. He perused the space behind the desk and shook his head. It was just too tight, especially with the door closed. Opening the door, the pulsing beat of dance music seeped into the room. Ted shoved the desk against the wall, widening the fairway into the strip club. When he was confident, he jumped onto the desk and waggled his hips, measuring his proximity and gauging the strength he'd need. 4! He shouted and let fly. It took a few minutes for people to realize what had tumbled into the lengthy room and rolled under the bar stools. The shadows cast by rotating colored spotlights hid the events. Ted waited until screams erupted from the main room. Then he strode out like a rock star, relishing the fear he could bring to such a low establishment. Surprisingly, a few scraggly men were so engrossed in the tubby woman on stage that neither they nor their entertainment noticed Ted Dansen walking past, flinging blood from his baton, collapsing it, and shoving it into a makeshift compartment. Ted ignored them and swept out the door like a magician leaving the stage. In Shimmy's part of town, there was no law enforcement. No one would step forward as a witness, nor would they point a silent finger. That was the kind of thing that got you killed. Outside, in the parking lot, customers turned to stare. Recognition set in, and a few stooped behind car doors, but most just watched him. Ted jerked his coat open as though revealing himself to the masses, turning this way and that. "What? You want more? Are you not entertained?" he screamed, attempting to reenact Russell Crowe's gladiatorial speech. Those hiding fled to their cars and ran down the street. What Ted Dansen didn't realize was that Shimmy agreed with Ted on most things. However, he didn't much care for underlings whose opinions of themselves outgrew their worthiness. Underlings who think they deserve more will inevitably take from their superiors. 300 yards away, Justine pushed a white lock of hair away from her eyes and stared calmly into the scope. A little man was centered in the crosshairs, jacket thrown open, making a large target. There was little chance she would miss, even if she was aiming at his valuables. She pulled the trigger, the stock rebounded against her shoulder, then she ejected and reloaded another shell. Through the scope, Justine watched Ted Dansen bowl over, howling. If she didn't know him better, she would swear he was mourning the loss of his lucky charms. But that was unlikely. Ted hated the leprechaun stereotypes. All of them. And she should know. He'd dumped her last week after he'd had a tryst with a conniving soccer mom. "Well, you won't be charming anyone else," she whispered, enjoying every word. The end. Thanks again for joining us here for Story Glimpse. I'm Weston Kincade, bestselling horror author, and I hope you enjoyed the story you heard today. If you'd like to hear more, please subscribe, click the bell, and leave a comment if there's anything you'd like us to add or ideas you might have. Thanks for coming. Have a great day.